Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining me. My name's Russell Trafford-Jones, and this is Broadcast Focus. This is a channel not only to watch week by week how much very, very awkwardly and slowly I get better at presenting the beginning of programs, but also it's a way of digging behind the scenes of the broadcast and media industries, where I talk to people, and people is what makes the industry go. And whether we're talking about technology, whether we're talking about careers, or in this case, talking about a project, it's all about learning, and it's really interesting. So very delighted to say welcome to Aaron. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you, Russell. It's a pleasure.
We've done a lot of work over the summer, so it's great to talk to you about, well, what we did together. So how's about, are you able to give an intro as to what the IBC Accelerator program is?
Yeah, absolutely. So, of course, in the broader sense, the IBC Accelerator project is, of course, a bunch of projects which are driven by the IBC, in which they bring champions, so typically broadcasters, production companies, media creators, content creators, together with vendors in that space. And it's there where lots of different other vendors came together with a bunch of broadcasters, which I can name, of course. The project was done together with BBC, YLE, the Finnish broadcaster, News UK, ITN, obviously, and I think I'm missing someone already. Because
don't worry, we'll see them on the website in a minute. We'll bring it up and have a look. But together, I mean, the idea is that for IBC, you do something which is new or hasn't been done before.
Yes.
So, what's this is within the news context. So, what is it about news which is different to other types of programming?
I think with news, and specifically news created within a broadcast setting, has been around for a very long time. So that means that they are dragging along lots and lots of historical infrastructure, and they have ever-growing technological infrastructure. And for them, for a lot of the broadcasters that were in this project, they had to think about, how do we make sense of making all of this equipment talk to each other and make sure that it can be controlled by non-technical people as well. That was the challenge.
Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, the basis of news programs for a long time has been this automation, hasn't it? So why has news traditionally been different and needing this automation that hasn't been in other programs?
Yeah, first of all, with news, of course, you have a story and you stick with it. So you know very much where you're going from A to Z. And also you need to speed up the way that you're churning it out, right? Today, we see this, for example, with the prevalence of fast channels. You need to be able to make news fast and first. So to do that, automation is the name of the game.
Okay. And so with with your company, Tinkerlist, you have a news rundown system. And we were working together with John Roberts from ITN. And what was it that you think that was new and different that we managed to achieve? What was the aim?
What we wanted to achieve is we wanted to create a common control layer. So today, when you're building automations, right, between a certain NRCS or a certain rundown, then you will have to make use of the MOS protocol to make sure that one value in your NRCS or rundown does this on the other end, right? This is very difficult because you'll have to set it up every time and again for every type of automation that you want to do, or you need lots of automation programs in between. And what we wanted to ensure is that there is one common control layer that can control any device, right? So you need something that's completely device agnostic. So it works with historical or future devices that you want to work with.
Okay, so I'll bring up now the website. This is for the Gallery Agnostic Live Media Production Accelerator Project, and this is what what we're working on for IBC. So if you do want to go to the IBC website under the Accelerator Media Innovation Program, then all of them are there. And we can see that this is all the detail right at the top. There's a whole panel where we present what we did and the pros and cons. You can see here there's some of the champions and the participants. So we've got two videos on this side. What about who's this guy on the balcony, and how did that? Why is that part of it?
That's Eric. That's our dear CEO and the founder of Tinkerlist. What we wanted to set out to prove in our project is that we did not only want to automate into a studio setting, we also wanted to prove that you can also do remote control, right? So that from just by using a laptop, for example, or a small control panel, you could essentially control an entire studio while you're in a remote setting. So in the middle of a city, at the rooftop bar, and you can do everything that you could do with the full power of the gallery setup at your disposal. We're quite in some important measures to this, of course, because you're also talking about getting signals in and out. So where pickaxe proven very very useful. All of it is, of course, also explained in the video, but I'm happy to delve into it a little bit more deep.
Well, we can do. So, I mean, it's called Gallery Agnostic Media Production. So I guess the standing on a balcony, the idea there, I mean, we can see Eric in front of the camera, but the gallery agnostic side of it was that it doesn't really matter where the gallery was. And is it possible to have the gallery like next to Eric and everybody's just on the balcony?
Yeah. So what traditionally is done very often is you send out the DOP van somewhere, and then you have your gallery with you, and you have lots of cables, etc., etc. What we did with this project was, of course, you needed the internet connection, but that is easily solved in today's times, especially with the 5G coming up. And it was actually Eric who was in front of the laptop, and he was controlling a Grass Valley amp system, for example, but also a small vMix unit, PTZ cameras, all of that from his laptop. So he was the presenter and the director at the same time. So the entire show was automated, and everything was done remotely, and everything was over the airwaves and controlled that way.
Okay, and of course, if it was a big news story, like a big death or some tragedy, then it's not uncommon to send 2 or 3 news anchors to a scene with camera operators and other people. So I guess it doesn't have to be the presenter that's doing it all. If it's a big scene, then you can have most of that done from the roadside, effectively.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the way that together in this consortium, how we created the solution is that you're pretty free on how you want to do it. Do you just want to send the presenter to the big event, right? And you only want him or her to control a few pieces of that episode. For example, you put a clicker in their hand, and whenever they click, for example, a soundbite starts or a video. Or you have an operator on the other hand who has a laptop with him, who triggers it, or you're using it in the traditional way where the camera feed from the presenter comes in, and then of course it's controlled from the studio. It doesn't matter. It also doesn't matter where the gallery is. It can be in the clouds, it can be in a data center, it can be in the gallery. It doesn't matter.
And the other video that's on here, that's playing at least, is this guy in VR goggles. So can you talk us through what the idea of that is? How does that fit in?
Yeah, absolutely. So the VR glasses, basically the way we explored it is the VR glasses can be used in a variety of ways. What if the gallery is not a location where we're all physically present, right? I look to the left of me and I see physically next to me, I see an operator, and physically right to the right of me, I see the director. What if we can all have VR glasses on and we can look left and right and we can see our colleagues? So everybody can work remotely. But that also means if everybody works remotely, you also have to control all of these devices remotely. So that means that you need some kind of tooling, for example, like Tinkerlist, that is a common control layer that can control all of these devices from a distance. So combining the device agnostic control with something like a VR glasses ensures that you can have a remote gallery where the gallery is replaced by glasses, and also that you have a very easy disaster recovery method, right? Instead of having a separate location where you do your disaster recovery, you can have like a kit where someone puts some glasses and is ready to go.
Yeah, because it's not about like having to take all of these solutions, all of these tools at once. If you just need, one aspect, then that's good, right? So we don't all have to suddenly run to the streets to do every news program from now on to the end of time. But what we can do is, one of the other things that we did look at is moving, just going from a normal gallery into the cloud to be in a disaster recovery kind of gallery. So in that case, if you're having to evacuate your building, then actually suddenly having three monitors with you that you can just have wherever you are suddenly becomes very valuable. And you wouldn't want to do every show like that, perhaps.
Exactly. That is maybe even the simplest solution, right? It's about, me as a director, for example, I need to be able to see several screens. And indeed, the fire alarm goes off and I have no time to find 4 screens. I put on the glasses and I can see 4 screens all at once, right? So perfect example. And on top of that, every person is completely free in using our project in the way they see fit. If they just want to automate, for example, 2 or 3 tools and the rest they want to continue doing with operators, that's totally fine. We want to give that flexibility, but the problem is today that flexibility is not really there in traditional gallery setups.
Yeah. And so, you must have something in common with quite a few vendors where you're needing to control a whole load of kits. And so every time someone finds a new piece of kit or a new product from the same manufacturer, then it's up to you then to to integrate that and make sure that you're part of that control, which I guess is kind of how you're able to get such a wide range of control equipment.
Yeah, absolutely. When we talk about the device agnosticism and meaning control of lots of different tech, that can be achieved, for example, by developing a common protocol, but there is already something out there and it's called API. Now, the difficulty is today we always set up the connection to any different vendor and to every different device, right? But the way you have to do that is one, is there an API? If there is an API, fantastic. Is it publicly accessible? If it's publicly accessible, fantastic. If it's publicly accessible, in what way is it structured? And can it receive all of the commands and triggers that we want to send to it? So the issue that we very often see is that either it's not accessible or it is not structured in the same way. So it is a discovery every time and again that we have to make these integrations.
And what happens if it's not publicly accessible? Do you have to go kind of begging? What I presume you're working with a broadcaster, so then they have to be the middle person, and then.
Or, truth be told, for the vast majority of all of the vendors we've worked with, they've been always very willing. So they've been, because they see the benefits, and I think we're also in an age where this has become apparent, of making sure that as many tools can natively integrate with your tool, because there is only a win-win situation there, right? You have created something that can be controlled by something else more easily, right?
Yeah.
So I think someone saying no, that I think that has not really happened yet. But what has happened, of course, is for some, there is more work to be done than for others. and that all depends on what they have to publicly share or in the way that it is structured.
I see. So, I mean, what you're seeing is that people realize that the move, in a wider sense, the move into software, and certainly software control, has made people a bit less cagey about releasing protocols. And no, it feels like it wasn't too long ago where the exact specifics of serial protocols were a lot harder to get hold of. But I guess, is it true that like APIs are a little bit easier to document? The more processes around that, perhaps?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, there are standards out there in most industries, not so much in the broadcast industry. But I do feel that most vendors have realized that there is a new age upon us, or whatever you want to call it, because all of the big broadcasters, they also buy other software, for example, a CRM or an accountancy program. And there they very easily notice that, oh, okay, I can match these by using other services, stuff like Zapier or whatever. But with their broadcast equipment, they can't. So, and I think the era of having to buy an end-to-end system where you have very heavy vendor lock-in, that's beyond us. It's fine that you are a vendor, that you have end-to-end solution, but I think most broadcasters want to shop around and want to see what serves their needs best. And vendors want to play around with that as well, because they want to fit in another people's end-to-end flow as well. So I think we are in agreement, most of the people, that we need this openness. But what we have not reached yet is how we're going to do it, and that is an important part.
Yeah. So, I mean, to that end, what we did is we issued an open call to anybody really, and this is continuing part of that, to register your interest in helping solve this problem. There's two aspects to it. One is people who want it solved and people who can solve it. So this is kind of a best practices suggestion. How would you describe the call to action?
I think the call to action, what we don't want to do is to create a new API standard, or that is way too difficult, and it's possible, but you would need an entire focus group for that. But what we do want to do is we want to work together with integrators, with vendors, with broadcasters to create some kind of structured checklist. So, for example, vendors, hey, make sure that you have API, first of all. Secondly, make sure that it's accessible. And if you make it accessible, make sure that it adheres to at least these checkboxes, so that it becomes easier for everyone to integrate with your tool and make it talk to other tools as well. And that will already go a long way to ensure interoperability and to not have to rely on very outdated or difficult protocols.
Yeah, I mean, the idea is really that the better vendors who are more conscious about how well they are presenting their product to the end users, they can go and measure themselves and improve against this checklist. But similarly, an end user can use it to to bash a vendor over the head in the nicest way possible. So some end users are more diplomatic than others, but it's a way of saying, right, well, this is kind of what we're looking for, and if it's already written down, then I guess that's half the battle.
Absolutely. Maybe we should work with a gold star rating. If you do the entire checklist, you get 5 gold stars, and then everybody knows that you're best in class.
So if you are interested, it's literally just to send a message to say, yeah, count me in. Then improvingbroadcastapis.com is the website to go to. So please do go ahead. And whether you're a vendor or a broadcaster or end user, then we want to hear from anyone who's interested, so that we can bring together a useful number of people and come up with some form of consensus and make some sort of progress, because it's needed. And I think, what do you see the benefits are? I mean, if things were easier to integrate, what kind of good news is that for end users?
I agree. So everybody listen to Russell, go to the website, leave your email.
It'll save you money if your control vendor doesn't need to spend 3 weeks integrating a difficult API, I guess.
Absolutely. And it also stimulates creativity, because at the end of the day, that maybe allows you to, bring two tools together that was not possible before. And maybe it makes control layers like Tinkerlist obsolete. Who knows?
Well, I mean, this is one of the benefits of being in the news sector, really, because it feels to me like there's a lot of movement. Obviously, news moves quickly, but there's a lot of pressure on news, I think, on the technology side to keep things cheap, basically. That must breed a little bit more experimentation, and the desire to go down these more progressive routes, I guess, than other slower kind of game show studio based things.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that's why it's very important. And also, I think very traditional broadcasters have also very noticed that they very often have built very rigid automations, and where they have an entire ecosphere of tools that talk to each other, where they don't dare to change anything anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, it will break the thing, and then the news cannot be made. Yeah, that don't be kept hostage by these type of setups. Moving towards API-based interoperability means that you can experiment. So if something is not to your liking anymore, then you can replace it. I mean, you do that in your own house. You do that with your software. You should be able to do that in your broadcast setup for the news as well.
Yeah, and I mean, certainly the move to software allows you to change more easily, right? Because you haven't got that sunk cost of who knows how much in hardware. You can create a new software workflow, test it out, and then you can move to it or bring it in as an A/B. I mean, obviously, the more vendors you have, the more control interfaces you need. But there's that flexibility. You can either do that, or you can say, right, well, yeah, I've had only a year with this vendor, but this one's got a new feature, and let's go that way.
Yeah, and
so more flexibility means changing API integrations quicker.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think everybody wants to move in that direction anyway. We noticed that, and if you go to the DPP, etc., all of the big broadcasters, they also mentioned that they want to move to an OPEX kind of based system to make their decisions. Yeah, you can only do that if you don't have to do a large investment in a certain software development that then you're stuck with for the next 10 years. No, you want something that can play nice and talk to the other things, but that you can also, if you think after a year, yeah, I'm done with it, that you can let it go.
Yeah, that's good. Right. Well, look, this last time we'll mention improving broadcastapis.com. Please do go there if you've got any opinions. Just register your interest, and we'll bring you into the conversation. So yeah, overall it was really good. A very enjoyable accelerator. So thanks for all your hard work on that, Aaron.
And thank you too.
Do search for the Gallery Agnostic live media production. I'll put a link in the description, and find out about that and all of the other interesting accelerators. There's going to be a new round of accelerator projects coming up very shortly. I think the deadline is at the beginning of December. So if you are thinking of anything, then do send that along, and look forward to tracking the development of those projects as we get closer to September. Dare I even think about the next IBC? Before April, it seems like you're not allowed to mention IBC. A couple of last things to do. Obviously, this broadcast focus is a new channel, and we need all the help we can get establishing. So please do like and subscribe, because it really is very, very helpful. So the last thing is really to say thank you again, Aaron. Thanks for joining me, and hope to speak to you again sometime soon.
Absolutely.